Don't you think it's about time for a podcast that's more fulfilling? One that's about the vibrant exchange of ideas and perspectives that happens when we actually come together. We got you covered. Welcome to the Deep Blue Project, where the depths of conversation meet the waves of personal experience. This is a real, raw, and unscripted show about everything from leadership lessons to self-awareness, wellness, and the latest current events. We cover it all. We have a rotating cast of guests as we share our personal stories, insights, and opinions on the issues that matter most. Plus, we have a blast while doing it. The Deep Blue Project. It's not just a podcast, it's an experience. And now your host, Chris Workman.
Hey everyone, this is Chris, and I welcome you to this episode of the Deep Blue Project. I have James Espinoza on with me. James is the CEO of American Freedom Consulting. He's also been part of law enforcement. He works with veterans and first responders. I'm going to let James kind of give a little bit of his background and let him introduce himself to you. James, welcome to the Deep Blue Project, my friend.
Thank you. This is an honor that you would ask me to even join. So I appreciate the honor to share a little bit of my story, share a little bit about what we're doing, and then obviously a little bit about what we hope to do.
Gotcha.
So I guess we'll take this time.
American Freedom Consulting and how you kind of got into that.
Yeah, so American Freedom Consulting is just a small business that I started on the heels of a nonprofit that I founded back in January of 2021. Just a little bit of the backstory to that is I lost my older brother to suicide. He was a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel, which was, as you can imagine, a huge shock for us. He was a retired Army officer, West Point graduate, master's degree, education-wise. And, I was with him for much of his transition in terms of a go-to person. We communicated a lot. We communicated directly, and there were just things that I missed. He was retired for just over 5 years before he died. He was bookended with unemployment. So it's about his first 6 months out of the military, he was struggling to find a work because he was overqualified and underqualified. Educationally and professionally, he was overqualified, and technical skill-wise, he was underqualified. So I kind of was with him through that in terms of just being the sounding board. He landed a job at an organization, a large organization, which I won't name, that ended up letting him go about 3 or 4 weeks before he was vested. So now he had 4 years invested into this company, and he has found himself unemployed again. From that, he had to move from Colorado Springs to New York, and ultimately he landed a job at the New York Military Academy first, which he quit on the first day. And then he ended up working at West Point at the Army office, the ethics office. And, when he got the job, I thought we were out of the woods. So if he was going to do anything, it was at that time during unemployment. Right. Anyways, long story short, this is kind of a culmination of 5 years of mentoring and interacting with first responders and veterans, a year of law enforcement retirement, 6 years Army service, and a 30-year job career where I just really worked toward building job skills that were transferable. And the nonprofit was founded by my wife and I in January 21 after a conversation we had about just what's going on with veterans and first responders. I've lost my brother. That's obviously within that 1 degree of separation. And I'm probably close to about a dozen within that 1 degree of either I've worked with them, I knew someone who worked with them and interacted with them in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a completed suicide or an attempt. So my consulting company now is basically operational based on the principles of the founding of the nonprofit, which is based on what I've identified as the 5 pillars of wellness, which I see as mental wellness, physical wellness, financial wellness, relationship wellness, and career wellness. I focus on the career aspect, but I have a huge network of resources and mentors who also are able to support through those.
So I think you touch on a lot of things that we try to look into. I mean, I've been doing this a little bit and get a lot of individuals who speak on here, and that have kind of the same things that you talk about, James. And I think them having them 5 pillars is great because nobody's ever really touched on that kind of thing before. So it's something new to listen to, but it also touches on all those things that affect us, right? Some people look at us and they go,
Yeah.
They're police officers, they're first responders, but that's the only side they see. You've done this job also, so
Right.
you know that. They don't sometimes realize, and they can't sometimes relate the fact that we're individuals who have families also, that we have our problems also, that we this is a job, but we're a whole separate person outside of this. And sometimes we even forget that. I think that's what some of our problems are. And having to get there, we try to, look at all those aspects, but it's not easy. It's not easy. So I want to say how you kind of came up with those 5 pillars and what your kind of main core parts of each one of those are.
Yeah. So the 5 pillars I came up with is really through both my law enforcement and military career. A little bit of my work history. I did 20 years in law enforcement at 3 different agencies. I started at the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's, deputy sheriff, deputy coroner. I found early in my career that I was really good at dealing with gang members. So much of my career, I focused on kind of going after gang members, ultimately becoming a gang detective at Ventura Police Department. I did time there as far as patrol and detectives. I worked robbery homicide. And during that period, I became also a SWAT crisis negotiator. So now I'm crisis intervention team trained and I'm a SWAT crisis negotiator. And through those interactions, I recognized that there's generally one thing that always brings people down off the proverbial ledge, and that's love. They always love something. And when you can figure out what that thing is and avoid all those other triggers that they don't want to talk about, you can bring them down. Now, the point being that generally there was either a combination of those 5 pillars that were, if you visualize like a Roman building with 5 big columns, and if 2 or 3 of them were crumbling or fallen, the roof's going to come crumbling down, right? So if those pillars are weak or need shoring up, there's still kind of a chance and a hope to save a person. But by the time they're willing to jump off of the proverbial ledge, usually it's 2 or 3 of those factors were at play. And you had to kind of bring them back to that idea of hope, that there's hope to repair those things that were broken in their lives. There's another layer of that I wasn't really aware of when I started. I wasn't able to articulate it. Now I can better. There's an element of shame involved in crisis. There's an element of trauma, obviously trauma exposure. And then there's also the moral injury, which has been kind of coined and worked with Dr. Shauna Springer. She's really working to advocate this idea of moral injury as a causation of suicide. So going back to the 5 pillars, I learned after I developed this program that SAMHSA has 8 pillars. There's other programs that have 6. And, it was just this idea that I need 5 tenets. So originally I had the idea of these are the 5 core principles that we're going to focus on. Mental wellness obviously being the top. If your mental wellness isn't good, forget about everything else. Let's work on that, right? We push people out to resources. Physical wellness, we can work on, right? Financial wellness, hey, we can work on that. Relationships, we can work on that. And then your career, let's go for it. Let's do your resume and find you a new job. But that mental wellness component, although I primarily focus on career strategies and career resources, that mental wellness component is kind of the secret sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No, you're good.
That mental wellness component is the secret sauce to really focus on and dial in and say, where are you at with this? And I can say through the past 5 years, actually, my brother died in April of 2018. A little side note to that is I also lost my dad less than 5 years prior to that to a very rapid cancer. So since basically March 2013, when I found out my dad had cancer, he died June 12th, 2013. That was a grieving period for me while active in law enforcement. I was in the major crimes robbery homicide unit. The day my dad died, we were in the middle of a homicide investigation. So now I'm dealing with death while grieving a major death in my life. And it took a good solid 4 years for me to kind of work through that and come to a positive outcome. And my brother killed himself. And it just put me in this state of mind where all I could do was get up, go to work, and come home. Get up, go to work, and come home. And I could keep myself together just enough to do my job. But I was completely obliterated for everything else. I was pretty much worthless to anything else. I was still functioning, So I really, really recognize that as a huge component, and I really think I came out positively on the other side. I still have my issues. I have my grief to deal with. I have therapy and things like that. I'm not afraid to say, which started as grief therapy and has really worked toward doing some deep, deep dives into real physiological, psychological connections with my body and my brain.
Yeah. So one of them things that is tough, I mean, for a lot of us, you hit it on the head. I think we get to that point where we have them major traumas or that major thing. And you had two happen within a span of 5 years. But again, I think we go back to a lot of people don't realize that on top of that stuff that we're dealing with, we have that innate nature to go, I still have the job to do. I still have to be good. I still have to go answer these calls. I think one of the things that I say a lot, and people kind of look at me and go, well, what do you mean? And I think you might get this is, we're great at our job because it becomes automatic for us. Like we go to work, and once we're in here, it's like autopilot. I mean, we're automatic. Like our whole focus is on the mission of the day. And when we have them calls, we know we have to be 100% on our game. We have to be able to make these decisions. We have to be able to decide what we're going to do. But we spend so much time trying to suppress that whole other half of us because we have that job to do, that once that day ends, it's like somebody took this emotional ride and now we're just spent and we don't want to deal with nothing. And I'm with you there, James. I was there, and a couple of people that I know who talk about it all the time. And Doug Monda's one of them who talks about this all the time. Is like, once he got home, it's like, I just want to do mindless shit. I would just sit in front of the TV and I wasn't necessarily watching it. It's just like background noise. I just wanted something to take all the mess and all the ideas, or something to occupy my brain. So I wasn't thinking about the stuff that my body was going, but you still haven't dealt with this, and you still haven't dealt with that. And in your case, it's your death of your father and brother. In my case, it was a lot of things. I mean, my father passed away when he was 48 years old. I mean, I was so messed up by this job that I couldn't even grieve properly. I didn't even cry when he passed away, and that was awful. Like I look back for years and go, why wasn't I more upset at the fact that my dad passed away? Because you just see this so much, you become numb to it. And trying to explain that. And I've been married 2 times. I'm on my 3rd, and thank God my wife now has a better understanding, and I'm a little better in dealing with things. But I thought that was all their issue. Like, this was all my issue. I put this on my family and my son and everybody else. But I thought they were the ones that were wrong, not me. And we find that out now. But you touch on a great point. And that is, it's always a work in progress. Like, this is an everyday thing. Like, you get those moments that come back or things that happen and you go, all right, but now I know how to deal with that better. And I think maybe that's going back to kind of what you're talking about and your growth into that. So you have quite a few things going on.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, go ahead, James.
Yeah, I'm sorry, there's a little delay. Go ahead.
Yep, you're good.
No, I was going to say you're spot on. I mean, first of all, kudos to you to realize and recognize that, to turn your finger when we have the whole thing we're pointing at other people, you to go, oh, it's me, right? There's a song that says, I am the problem. There's some song out there. I remember hearing that song. The problem is me, right? I had that realization in May of 2021 when I went to the Save a Warrior program. I was still active law enforcement. I was deeply grieving. I was having a lot of family, interpersonal relationship issues, a lot of interpersonal relationship issues at work. I had tested for promotion a couple times. I was able to successfully promote 1 or 2 times, but this was in between the 2 promotions. And I was pretty much a grumpy Gus. I just could only function in the capacity that I could be really good at my job. And I was really floundering in everything else. And I've been married to the same woman almost 30 years now. My wife, God bless her, I've put her through the ringer with this career. The physiological, psychological connection that I didn't understand in terms of not adrenaline, dopamine chasing with the mindless activities, risk-taking behavior, alcohol, wanting to work overtime instead of be at home, just you name it. I would take on projects and I would be overworking myself to the point where I didn't have to deal with these things. And to your point, I was the opposite of you. After my dad died, I couldn't stop. crying. After my brother died, I almost couldn't stop crying. I was literally waking myself up in the morning going, get up, you got a job to do. I was crying. I'd take my shower, I'd dry my tears, I get in my suit, game on, right? And it was really hard for me because what you're talking about, I experienced the point after my dad died. That was one thing. We rationalize. I think we all eventually rationalize parental deaths as they were older. It's a natural circle of life. We've all seen The Lion King. The circle of life happens. And you get to this point of acceptance. I was 39 when my dad died, and then I was 44 when my brother died. But they're two very different deaths. Like my dad fought for his last breath. He literally died from cancer in his lungs. He fought for his last breath. My brother took his last breath. Like he took his last breath from himself. I couldn't reconcile those two things. And what happened with my brother's death, understanding that I did all of the death notifications for my entire family. I drove from Ventura to Santa Barbara, which was an hour drive with my commander. God bless him, Cloyce Conway. He drove me to Santa Barbara when he saw me starting to spin when I got the call at work. I took my gun and badge off for the ride. I put it in the trunk, and I had to go find my youngest niece at college. And when we found her, I opened the trunk, I put my gun and badge on, and it was time to do work. I notified her. We drove 2 hours south to where I live in Ventura County, my mom's house, hoping that nobody posted anything online that my mom would see. And then I told my mom, and it just went from there, so on and so forth. So it was a very different experience. So that gets me to my point that all of those things you talked about suppressing, like you're at work and you're able to suppress the stresses down through activity, through casework, through traffic stops, whatever, you're able to stay busy. I lost the ability basically to suppress anything. I had just this emotional overload of everything. And I talk about this when I do my public speaking. I started seeing every single dead body and violent death I had ever seen, and I put my brother's face on it. Because I wasn't there and I didn't see him. So I had this vision of how his final moments were. And with a sibling, I knew what his bad breath smelled like. I knew what he looked like in the mornings. I knew what he looked like when he cried. I knew what he sounded like when he was mad or sad or happy. And I had this flood of emotions that just went through me, and it didn't stop. It didn't stop for a couple of years. And finally, so he died in April of 2018. Finally, in early 2021, a couple of people I know convinced me to go to Save a Warrior. And one of them was Nick Edwards, who was a detective that I used to work with at Ventura PD. And a guy I never met, Michael Shagru. You might have seen him online. He's an author of, I can't remember the name of his book, but he's the author of a book that has to do with wellness with Dr. Shauna Springer. It'll come to me in a second. Michael said, when I started telling him what's going on, he said, get your ass to Save a Warrior. So when I went there, long story short, I was able to kind of get that third person view and the physiological understanding of what had been going on with me and what the connection was, the psychological, physiological connection was to everything that I was feeling. And I was able just to purge all of that out. And it was an amazing experience. Problem with that was when I purged all of that, the other stuff that had been also suppressed for years now came up. So it was almost like this never ending thing. And it's like, excuse my language, but it's like, what the fuck now? Like, come on, let me just chill and go back to the guy I used to be, right? And the reality is, I will never be that guy that I used to be again. I just seen too much. My brother's death just rocked my world. And I use this visual image I've spoken with thousands of veterans and first responders. I've presented dozens of times. I've been to dozens and dozens of events as a vendor and just as an attendee. And if you picture a pyramid with my brother at the top, like I'm trying to get up there to save him, when with every person we help, the pyramid grows, I will never catch him. I will never save him. He will never come back. And that, for me, sucks, but it drives me. So it just became this passion that made it difficult. And I didn't get to the third career choice that I had. I ended my career at the district attorney's office in Ventura County. I was a supervising investigator of a major fraud unit. And I made a decision that I would retire. And I retired 4.5 years early so that I could pursue this. And that is how American Freedom Consulting came to be, because I recognize this issue. I recognize a huge gap for first responders specifically for transition services, and then also to fill the gap in the void for military after they get out. They have TAP, but the TAPs, I don't know if it's TAP or TAPs, but once they're out, it's not even a warm handoff. It's like, here's a resume, here's your job search, good luck. And there's kind of nobody there waiting for them. So we really want to fill the gap. And 95% of what I do is advocacy work, but I do actively mentor people as well. And I do also do a lot of consulting and kind of pushing people out to third-party resources.
God bless what you're doing, man. But I can, it's funny when you talk about, that never ending and it bringing new stuff up, because I kind of felt that myself. And then I started kind of coining the phrase of cleaning out your mental closet, because we took so many years, and we've all done this. We've everybody's been suck it up, move on, drive on. So like, we're not even dealing with these situations as we're just going, throw them in the back. But as you said, I had that same thing, is once I really started learning about what things are and learning what things like vicarious trauma are and what compassion fatigue is, and these things that now I can put a name to, that I had no clue what was happening to me. But I started seeing and bringing up those things that, to your point, like new things, and they weren't new, they were just suppressed memories of all this other crap, started just kind of resurfacing, because I figured like, I got rid of that one. Here's that old shoebox. Yeah, it's a pair of old Nikes. I'm done with that. I looked at that. I figured out, tossed it to the side, but something else falls down out of the closet, and you're like, well, now I have to take the time to realize that I have to look at that too. That I have to see how that affected things. Like, but being able to, it's a shame. I think what we're trying to do now, and I think what you're doing, and what a lot of us are trying to do now, is us old heads who have suffered these traumas and who have put all this away and have done things for what we thought was the good of the career and the good of what we were doing, are now trying to tell these younger guys, like, you got to deal with this stuff as it comes. Like, you can no longer shove them in the back of the closet. You need to find, and that's what we're trying to do now, is say, hey, we're trying to give you these resources. We're trying to tell you that it's okay to go talk about that shooting you were just at. It's okay to be talking about that suicide that you were just at. It's okay to reach out to someone if you're having a family issue, bringing the families back into that also, because the families are, we think they're a detriment. We think we're helping them by not saying or talking about things, but yet that's turning into a disconnect. And they've been there through the whole thing. And
it is.
We can't do that.
Yeah, they've seen a metamorphosis of us. I had a couple of key, like, life-changing conversations over the last 5 years, and that's what brought me to retire. Was, if you can picture this, it's a real pretty visual. 3 grown men in a jacuzzi talking just about life and work and business, and this is one of the things that I did, because I have a friend who's a pastor who I've known since high school, and then his brother-in-law, I've known him since my early 20s when I was in the military. And we're sitting there, and we would go walking once or twice a week, and then we sit in the jacuzzi. Then I'd go to work. That was like about the level of physical activity I could do due to injuries to my back and things like that. Well, we're sitting there, and they're talking, and James West is his name, and he tells me, he says, "Yeah." He's like, "You've changed a lot, dude." He said, we were talking about just my career and things like that. And he says, "You've changed a lot." I said, "I have." Kind of like, "I have." He says, "Yeah, you were way different. Like, you were more fun. You weren't like so uptight. You hung out with it. Just so many things that they said." And I go, wow, I didn't really look at it from that perspective, because I felt like I had really grown as a person into this working professional. I'm a supervising district attorney investigator. There's one of 7 of us in the entire county, and to have someone of that importance to me share that with me to my face was kind of an eye-opener. And it really got me thinking. And I know there's people out there that are thinking these kind of things too. Is like, I literally talked a sex offender parolee off of the bridge, a train trestle, that he wanted to jump into oncoming traffic to die. If I'm going to help that guy, I'm going to help my brothers and sisters who signed up for this job. And I'm not going to keep going out there to help people who are a detriment to our community. I'm going to help and support those people that signed up for this, that are doing the work, that are committed to this job. But we, as the older heads, to use your word, we as the older heads can help them lengthen their careers. My career was shortened because I had a lack of leadership in this area. I'm not afraid to say that. It's not anybody's fault. We come from a generation of officers and military people that were raised in these professions by baby boomers who were raised by traditionalists who told them, put up or shut up. We were told, put up or shut up. And we're trying to now adapt to these younger cultures, these younger generations that were told, tell us how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
What are your expectations of me as your leader, right? That was so foreign to me. And I struggled in my career. I had a hard time relating to younger generations. I had a hard time relating to non-military officers because I came from the generation of put up or shut up. I didn't care if these people were my friend. I wanted to do a good job and I wanted to be recognized for it when appropriate. Not with awards, but I wanted to earn the respect in this profession. So to your point, and what we're talking about is like, I wanted to be a police chief, Chris. When I started, I remember telling somebody, yeah, I'm going to be sheriff one day, or I'm going to be a chief of police someday. Just maybe, even if jokingly, it was something that I was putting into the universe. And I got to the point in my career where I couldn't wait to retire. At some point, it spun around on me, and I'm like, I ain't doing this shit for another 5 years, another 20 years. I mean, I know people that have been doing this for 30, 40 years, and I think, how can you possibly do that? Mm-hmm. I did it for 20 years in law enforcement, 6 years in the Army. So I affectionately say I have 26 years of service. With the 5 years in between, I was in private business. My brain never left the military. So arguably 31 years of this mindset. Mm-hmm. And come full circle, I took the steps needed to hopefully lengthen my life, even though I shortened my career. And I have information and tools now, not from a bragging point, from a real lived experience point, that if someone wants to listen to me, it can help, I kind of feel like I'm rambling now, so I'll kind of end on that note. But it's important that we can recognize that no matter what point you're at in your career, we need young, strong people that want to get in pursuits, that want to get in foot chases, that are going to willing to commit extreme violence against someone that wants to commit extreme violence against us. We need those people. But for those of us that have already kind of done it, we've got to start taking care of ourselves and hopefully beat that statistics of we're going to die 5 to 7 years after we retire, right? That's the ultimate goal.
Right. Well, I mean, it does start with us. I mean, if we don't do that for ourselves, nobody's going to do it for us. And I think that's one of the key points that we have to start off with when we're trying to help our fellow officers who've been doing this a long time, is like, you need to realize that you've got to care about you, because it's said 100 times on LinkedIn, no matter where it is, people talking, like, as soon as we walk out that door, they've already got a posting up to fill your spot. It's not like they're going to be like, oh, hail Chris, he was so great, blah, we're gonna put a statue outside. No, they're not going to. They're going to be like, oh shit, we got to fill a spot, and you just walk out the door and somebody else takes over. Because that's the reality of it. But how much do we put into it? Doesn't mean you can't put into the job what you want to, but you need to take care of yourself and your family first and foremost. To your point, we weren't taught that, because as that was passed down to us, it was, for us, it was career. It was life or death. We need to do this job no matter what, because it supports our family, because it supports our livelihood, because it supports everything we do. And no matter what happens, we need to be man up and freaking put our big boy pants on, and we need to go do the job until it's over. Because if we don't, then we can't support our family. But it's not like that. And I think you bring up one thing funny is, as we talk about the kids nowadays, because we all did the same thing, and I did the same thing, like, oh man, they're just, as soon as you interview them, they want to know when vacation is. They want to know how much time they have off. They want to know what time they get off. Yeah. They have to work overtime, so on and so forth. But somebody pointed something out to me that I never thought in all the time I was bitching about the new generation. They're our kids. Like, we're the one who taught them that. Like, somewhere along the line, we taught them that. Now, we didn't do it ourselves.
Yeah.
But we did it for them. But this starts out with a lot of the things that we see going on nowadays, and what we're doing, and what you're doing with American Freedom Consulting, and what a lot of like After Action is doing, what Doug and what Survive First is doing, what these guys all do, including yourself, is just like, we're trying to get that word out there to go, hey man, like, we're telling you from experience. This is not something like, we're not trying to get money from you. We're not trying to like lead you down the wrong path, because we're trying to say, hey, look, you have a chance, to your point, to extend your life in this job. If this job is killing you, then please get out. And one of the things I say now to even younger people, because I see it happen, is go, if you have leaders that don't care about your wellness, any of your wellness, and they don't care about your mental wellness, your physical wellness, or your financial wellness, if they don't care about you, there's enough places hiring that have leaders that do. Get the hell out. Go find someplace else to go. that will take care of you, because nobody's going to do it for you but yourself. And that's the key point. And what we're trying to say nowadays is you have the permission to go seek the help, but also get out of the situation that's causing you that problem.
Absolutely. Yeah, loyalty is great, but it can also kill you. And I will share a little anecdote with you that I really struggled when I was leaving Santa Barbara Sheriff's. When it was kind of killing me to make the drive 75 miles one way to the courthouse in Southern California, I had a guy tell me, he said, James, you don't have to be loyal to the agency. You be loyal to the profession. You be loyal to us, your partners. We're still going to have your back no matter where you go. And when I got that freedom to make that decision from a trusted friend, a partner, someone who was one of my FTOs, field training officers, that was really important for me. And it kind of freed me up to make those decisions. And I made that tough decision to leave Ventura PD after almost 9 years while I was in the major crimes robbery homicide unit because of what he told me. I knew that because of the trauma I had experienced, that I could sense that something was different inside of me. That partially wasn't fair to my partners to operate at that level. And it wasn't fair to me either to keep myself, while I'm grieving death, to be surrounded by death and violence every day. So the irony of the whole story is I went to the DA's office as a career choice to lengthen my career, and I ended up catching valley fever, which is a fungal infection that put me out on injury, COVID, my back and my physical condition all worsened, and then my brother killed himself. And it got to the point where I just go, enough's enough. And I told my wife, hey, these are my numbers if I leave at this date, this date, this date, or this date. I gave her 4 choices. And she looked at the numbers and said, well, this first date works. I was out last March of 24.
God bless you. God bless you.
You know, I kind of, part of me wishes I would have stuck around, but the other part of me knows it freed me up to have a bigger voice in this arena. I have now spoken at the national level. An organization called Non-Opioid Choices, Voices for Non-Opioid Choices, they flew me out to Washington, D.C. last month, and I advocated in Washington, D.C. I'll be speaking in Chicago or Tinsley Park next week. And then I'll also be speaking in USC in September at the USC Verdugo Hills. And based off of your post, I just applied for FBI LEDA for next year. LEDA to hopefully speak next year out there. And it's really this same message of, you know what, shit happens, and you can either sit around, crumble into a ball and cry and die, or you can really learn how to launch from it. And no spoilers, but the speech that I do give, it has to do with really just digging in to that inner self and committing to find something that's of purpose for you to not only get you through your grief, but, excuse my language, but to fucking launch you from your grief. Like, it's going to be a springboard, like make something positive out of it. And that's the thing, that the biggest takeaway that I had from my dad's death and my dad's life really was just that he taught me to excuse me, I'm going to get a little emotional. He taught me to leave places better than when I arrived there. And that was from little simple lessons like working at his shop and having to sweep the carpet or sweep the floor to pick up as my first job, literally as a kid, to go camping, like pick up the trash around you, play sports, work your hardest. He just was this phenomenal motivator. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. And then to transfer also with my mom, she's a survivor. She had severe traumas early in life, ended up the guardian of 4 younger siblings at age 18. They instilled these principles into me that I wasn't just going to disappear into obscurity and be this lowly divorced former cop that's like drunk all the time, which can happen. If that's you out there, or that you're turning into that guy or gal, let's do something about it. Contact me. We'll do something about it. But I'm just not going to roll over and quit. And even though I really struggled with my brother's death, here's a kid who was most inspirational on his high school state championship soccer team, MVP of his USMA prep school, the West Point prep school soccer team. From the left fullback position, he scored the most goals for that team that year. And then he graduates from West Point and had a 20-year career in the military, retiring as a lieutenant colonel. He took himself out of the game. And from my perspective, I couldn't reconcile it. I couldn't figure it out. Like, how the hell did this happen? And when you learn the statistics and you learn the physiological, psychological statistic, we're both at that same risk. We have been high achievers probably for much of our life. Those adversities that just seem like you can't overcome them can really do a work on your brain in terms of the lies that your brain feeds you. And if you go down that path, the shame and the moral injury and all the trauma accumulation, once you get to that point of hopelessness, that's the most dangerous time for any one of us. And I'm a veteran. I'm less than 1 degree I have a first degree family member who killed himself, and I'm a law enforcement veteran retiree. 3 times the risk for suicide. And as my math goes, if you look at 1.5 times, I'm somewhere around 2 to 3 times at risk just based on those life experiences. So my awareness and my public speaking and my teaching is also cathartic for me. It's a reminder for myself not to go down that path too, because I could, and I just don't want to go that way.
Yeah, I feel you there, James, because I say the same thing. Like, people go, why do you do this? Or why do you do the podcast? Why do you bring this on? Why do you? It's not only to show others out there that they're not alone, but for me, it's become my therapy. I mean, I get the opportunity to discuss,
Yeah.
my story and the reason that I do what I do, just so much like you do, and a lot of us who are in this space who do that. It's our therapy. Why we speak about it, why we go on stage and talk about it, why we write books about it, why we want to help others with it, because we look at it as like, this is a way to help myself, because I it's easier in my head the more I can talk about it. So now I can talk, and I let me tell you, there's times people look at me and I go, like, there's times I might be speaking and something pops in my head that I just totally forgot about. And it may just be a random thing that happened that my mind is just at that time that I'm speaking. And it's happened when I've been in front of people and I go, holy shit, I just like remembered this thing that comes up for me. Whether it's a family issue, whether it's something I did to myself, whether it's something that happened on the job, like, you don't realize until these things happen that that's what this does for us. Like, you out there listening, when we do this, like that, this is as much cathartic and therapy for me. And us to keep telling you things like, you're not alone. We're trying to tell you that because we share our stories to let you know, like, you're not the only dude. Because there ain't half of you people listening. If you've done this job, like, you're there or you've been there. There's no way you haven't, unless you have a really good support system. And from Get Street, you were ready to go. I can talk about this. I need a break. I need to and that's coming. But I know for a lot of people our age, that never happened. It did not happen. And if it did, God bless you. But I highly doubt. You're probably the 0.1% of a person in this world who started this career 20, 30 years ago, and you were given that opportunity, because I don't think there's any out there.
No, I mean, that's a powerful realization, right? And I had some great lunch talks. I when I was a unit supervisor, we made it a point to have lunch a few times a week. And you got to figure that these guys, you go to the DA's office because a lot of these guys, they retire. So they're 50 plus, right? Age 50 plus, good 20, 25-year careers behind them. And we would sit around and have these fantastic conversations, but they're conversations that are at a level that you don't have when you're pushing a black and white and you push, or a patrol car, and you roll up next to your partner. You're like, hey, you see that body? That was crazy, right? I mean, oh yeah, you see the blood all over. What do you see, that dent in her head? Geez, it really did a number on herself. I still see those dead bodies in my brain, but I don't dream about them and my brother's faces off of them. And kudos to the new generation to really be more empowered. I have a master's degree from University of San Diego in law enforcement and public safety leadership. And one of the blocks of instruction, you have to do a study on generations in the workplace. And that was a real eye-opener, just to really understand that there are fundamental differences to our generations. And they're going to be a lot better off in the long run. And I think for our generation, Chris, and I hate to say it because you're a chief and I don't think you're in this position that you're doing this, but there's a lot of chiefs out there and sheriffs that have checkbox leadership. Yeah, we have a wellness program, check, right? Yeah, we have EAP available, check. Yeah, we have it, check. Yeah, we train our officers, check. But are you really pulling your sleeves up? Are you going to your debriefs? Are you sitting down and having lunch with your line workers and find out what their true needs are? Or are you answering to the people that pay the bills? Are you protecting the pocketbook of the cities and counties, which is fine. We have to do that. There's a responsibility. But the people, the men and women that are out there doing the job deserve true leadership. They deserve people that really are going to care for them when they need it most. And I don't want to have this talk every time I pull up next to my buddy about how shitty it was to listen to the mom cry when she found out her baby died, and it brings me to the point of tears too, right? We're going to joke about it. We're going to have the dark humor. We're going to have our protective measures in place. But some of the things that I did later in my career, and if this is okay for me to talk about now, with American Freedom Consulting, is I bought into an authorized training partnership with the Resilience Building Leadership Program. So I actually also help leaders revamp their own minds and their own leadership principles. So those hard skills that you and I learned, like white knuckling, the white knuckle leadership, let's just dig in, get it done, really helps develop soft skills. The framework has 7 modules to help you build team climate, team cohesion. I'm going to read from my screen over here. Team cohesion, individual purpose, experiential team learning, and organizational learning. So it takes these concepts and really helps reframe through experiential teaching, where if you're the student, you basically teach me what you've done in these places. And I did that certification probably in 2021, I believe, after I finished my master's degree. And when I did that training and realized that my hard skills outweighed my soft skills, and that was a little bit of the difficulty I was having at the district attorney's office, because that's a really corporate setting. You're dealing with a lot of civilians who never served. You're working with attorneys. And when I really took the time to develop those soft skills, changed my outlook toward the job I was doing, that helped me get to the next level. It gave me the confidence to also test for commander, which I ended up finishing second on the list, but never got it because I decided to retire. But there's these things that we have in our control to do. Some of them are educational, some of them are therapeutic. And if we can do that, we can take the time to do that for ourselves. We can really lengthen and strengthen our careers and our relationships. And that's also some of the stuff I'm doing at American Freedom Consulting.
I was going to ask you that, so you went right into it, and I appreciate that. Well, that's about all the time we have for today, James. I want to thank you very much for joining me. I'd love to have you on again and discuss it further somewhere down the line. We can really get into it. I'm going to have the link for American Freedom Consulting and the RBLP leadership search. That'll be out with this link, and also you'll be able to check onto it. And right now, I'm going to give James an opportunity just to kind of close us out, because you hit on a lot of things, but I think some of the last things that you touched on are some of the most important. So the floor is yours, James.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the opportunity. I will say that as a recent retiree from law enforcement, and adding the military into that I cast a big net when I retired. If you are in the boat that you're thinking about leaving law enforcement or even military and you're listening to this, start about 18 to 24 months out. Feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to point you in a direction to at least a resource, or if you need mentoring, I also offer that free of charge to veterans and first responders. There are things that we do just because I recognize a need for this, a gap that we're filling. There are some services that, quite honestly, there is a charge for because I get charged for it, but I'm not here really to sell anything to anybody. I'm really here to offer solutions that can help lengthen careers, strengthen careers. One of the other things we didn't get to touch on, and maybe we can touch on it next time, is I'm also a consultant with Thin Line Advisory that is being run and operated by Dr. Shauna Springer. Doc Springer is a nationally renowned clinical psychologist. She works in the warrior space, and if you are an executive, such as yourself, Chris, she offers that consulting to executive levels at the police chief and sheriff level to management teams to really dig in and work on these issues that we're talking about today. And I believe that healthier officers create healthier communities. And with the times that we're living in, when the tables are flipped, I've been there. When we're responding to more community complaints and responding to those issues rather than our own internal issues that we can make our agencies better, I'm here to support you people that are still doing the job or if you're thinking about retiring or changing careers as well. There's really no formula to it, but there is some secret sauce that I've found in the time being, and I'm more than willing to talk to people free of charge and figure out if we can help guide you into your next venture. I guess that's what I'll leave you with. So appreciate your time. Appreciate you inviting me, Chris. I know we've been connected on LinkedIn for a while now. And every time I think, why the hell am I on LinkedIn? I get a great connection like this, and it reminds me, okay, I can stay on here for maybe another 6 more months, right? So I appreciate you, man.
Exactly. James, thank you very much. I appreciate you, my friend. I mean, with your strong story, and that's what it's about, being out there and just helping our brothers and sisters, our vets, our first responders attack this issue and understand that, like, there's people out here who are willing to help you. You can't force somebody, but at least you can give them that lifeline to say, when you're ready to grab it, we're here. I mean, that's the best thing that we can do right now. So James Espinoza, thank you. Appreciate your time. This has been the Deep Blue Project. We will see you the next time, and make sure you check out our links. I'll get them from James, and they'll be available for you either on LinkedIn or right on our podcast display. Take care. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Deep Blue Project. As a father, husband, friend, and someone who loves to chat about anything and everything, Chris brings over 3 decades of public service experience to the table. With a background in firefighting and law enforcement, along with degrees in criminal justice and behavioral science, he's seen it all, and he's learned a thing or two along the way. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on LinkedIn and X at Deep Blue Project. Find our website at deepblueproject.com, and to reach out, send an email to deepblueproject@outlook.com. Keep keeping it real, and we'll see you next time on the Deep Blue Project.